Josefin.
Hi, Scott. So good to see
Hello.
you. Hello.
How are you doing? Last time I saw you was earlier this year, and you were doing a really beautiful Bollywood presentation
Yeah.
for
Oh,
all our.
it's always so nice to do that, especially right now when you're self-isolating in the forest and you're I'm talking to myself basically and into a Zoom camera all day long. So it's so nice to be able to move together with other people. So thank you.
No, that's fine. It was really lovely, and it was such. That's one of the things we're gonna touch on, that really beautiful way of like capturing movement in that way. It's just like it's so infectious. And so so I wanted to say to everyone that you did a Bollywood workshop for us like earlier in the lockdown in the spring, and it's really great. So that's the last time I saw you. How have things been since then?
Oh my God. Yeah, I think it's been as crazy as it's been for you guys. I mean, we've been having we never really had a lockdown here in Sweden, but now it's partially a lockdown over here. But we had kind of a lot of freedom over the summer where we almost felt like the pandemic has gone away. And I've been able to do my work inside the prisons actually since June. So I've been teaching outdoors, and also we've been dancing a lot because these guys that I work with, they are in a constant lockdown, right? So it's really important to let go and to be able to have fun and do all of these things with our bodies together. So for the moment, we're back into not being able to go back into the prisons, and I'm back in my house here in the forest. So it's been a little bit of a down for the moment, but I'm trying to use this to see it's more as a possibility to develop more training materials and also digital materials for different projects. So
Amazing.
all is well,
This is great.
considering.
So we're
Yeah.
really going to come back to that in a little while when we start to talk about like the that stuff around your work with prisons. And I think there's a really lovely, as you were talking then, I think there's a really lovely juxtaposition with these prisoners about everyone's saying everyone of the world saying they're in lockdown, but they're in lockdown. You use the word, they're in lockdown all the time, right? So I think
Yeah.
there's something we can really tweak on later. But how I normally start these conversations is because I'm really fascinated in the way or what's brought you to where you are. So I'd like you to tell me a time or when you felt right back at the beginning, when you felt yoga really land. And it's not about the time when you said, "Oh, when did you start yoga?" It's when you felt in yourself, you were practicing or something happened, and you were like, "Ah."
Mm. That was really immediate for me, actually, from the beginning. So I'm coming from I'm working with trauma today. I'm working with populations who's been exposed to trauma and a lot of mental health issues. And what brought me into that work is actually my own mental health, coming from complex trauma and abuse in the background as a child. So I was growing up with unresolved trauma in my body, you would say. So I had a lot of anxiety and hyper arousal symptoms, and I really didn't feel well. And my life was going into a very wild direction. So I finally ended up in India. In Sweden, I managed to end up in really bad company, you would say. So I started pretty early with self-medicating with alcohol and drugs and everything. So at the age of 18, I went to India, and of course ended up in Goa to go to all of these parties, and as you do when you're 18 and turning up in India for the first time. So, but I actually traveled to North India, and there I met an old guy in New Delhi, and he looked into my eyes and he said, "You have to do yoga." So it was more like he picked up the kind of unease that I had in my body. And I actually thought about his words. So his words really landed in me. And I heard about yoga, and I've been watching these people doing all of these crazy postures. So I thought, I'll go, I'll have a go. So I ended up in Rishikesh, and it's like my first or second class when I started to be connected with breathing and moving. I do remember that sensation of, okay, oh my God, I basically never took a really deep breath in my life until now, it felt like. So when I felt that, I really felt that I could feel the ground beneath my feet. And that was a huge moment for me, because I felt like really scattered, basically. So that was my real first aha moment of, oh my God, this practice is really, really powerful. And I didn't do much. I was really struggling. I was sweating, and I was doing all of these practices, trying to keep up with this Indian, like really acrobatic hatha yoga, hardcore teacher up in Rishikesh. But I loved it, and I ever since. So in the beginning, it was for me like I went in and out into the yoga practice. I went back into Goa and all of that kind of scenery, and then I came back to the yoga practice. So it was from that first experience, I felt that, okay, this allowed me to feel at home in myself. So that's the first.
Do you think it was that, so you literally, it was the breath, it was after that first class, you think that was it?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was like, oh my God, it's magic or anything like that. It was more that I could feel myself self-regulating for the first time in ages, because I had my breath over here, and I had panic attacks, and I had some OCD symptoms, and it's sleep problems, and I was really a mess, basically, when I look back at it. So for then it was my normal. And this is the same with all the people I work with, that you don't really realize how kind of hyper aroused you are until you feel the opposite. So
Right. Yeah, that's a really, and so there was, what was that, if you could put something on, or if you could put a word on that first moment when you felt grounded, what would it be? What would it be?
home. I felt like I found myself at home in myself. So it was like a sense of safety.
And had you not had that before?
No, basically never, which is really interesting. It was like a new, maybe I did in small glimpses, and I did feel safe together with my family. But, it's like, since I had that kind of, now when I've been studying traumatic stress for so many years, I know about the nervous system, I know about the effect in the brain, and also, all the stress hormones that was constant in my body, that I wasn't really able to feel relaxed until I started to reach deeper levels of my nervous system, basically. So yeah, it was a huge relief. And it was also a bit scary in a way, because it was something new, and it also brought up a lot of emotions.
There's something else I want to touch on, which you said, which I think is really sweet, and I think it harks back to these moments, these kind of moments we have in our life when we meet random strangers, and they say something, and our life takes a complete turn. And that guy in New Delhi going, "You must do
Yeah.
yoga." What do you think he saw for him to say that?
First of all, I think he was a bit irritated because I was pretty loud. This was in a restaurant in New Delhi, and I was like all over the place, and probably disturbed him a little bit. But I saw in him that he knew the possibilities, and the effects from a yoga practice, and he saw that this would really land in me in a deeper level. And I'm sure he said this because of it. I didn't think he was purely only irritated.
No.
I felt he had my best at heart there.
And is it one of these? But do you know this person, or is it just someone that was random?
No, just a random. And this has been my life, basically, Scott.
I love that. I love that.
Random meetings, and then a strong feeling from myself that, okay, no, whatever it takes, I need to go and do this. And that's
amazing.
why I'm here today. Yeah.
I mean, this is it, right? But that's what I love about like this this way of this listening and just following and feeling it in yourself and going, that feels right. I think that's really the lot of people I've spoken to have had that coming from. I know that happened to me coming from a just a childhood, which I don't remember a lot, and then having that kind of feeling of coming home after doing yoga. It's really precious, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes,
it really kicks something off in us.
it does. And it's just like I am struck all the time about like how simple it can be, you know, like, and how accessible it can be for so many people. And that's the kind of fire in my work, that um, we can actually reach this kind of place in ourselves. It takes some time and it takes a lot of practice. It's not that it happens instantly. Like I said, it also came with a lot of confusion and strong emotions, but yeah, it's really powerful. And
Well,
when you look into the history of yoga, I mean, you see it's like a whole complete holistic system of viewing us as human beings, you know, on so many
but
different levels.
that's it, right? It's because we have
Yeah.
these moments, right? And yet,
Mhm.
and they're amazing and they feel like home, but all the other stuff just doesn't fall away straight away, does it? That's the
No,
thing.
no, and I find that's like in the yoga world also, like sometimes it's all about the bliss and we should be feeling good, and this word home for me, it also includes all the rubbish that I have in my home. It doesn't really necessarily mean that I clean everything out, you know. It's just embracing kind of the things that you have in your life that caused you suffering, and the suffering you cause to others. It's just like an inclusive practice, you know. um, a woman that I work with inside the prison, she just gave this amazing view over this. She said she kind of cleaned her inner space when she's doing a meditation, and instead of having a really messy room, she puts things in boxes, her experiences, you know, like this was my childhood, and this was my criminality, this was my drugs. She kept it all. She didn't necessarily need to throw anything away, but now she knows where it is, and she has a clean space around her where she can relax into herself. But she kept all her experiences, and today she works on the outside with abused women, and now she's looking into these boxes, you know, and using them. Like, wow, I wish I had some more of this that I could share, you know. So
Yeah, right. Because
yeah,
these experiences, they really make us if we can hold
yeah,
on to them, right?
yeah, really. So it's being
So
safe
you,
with that. Yeah.
yeah, so you had that class, and then that was all my like always like a moment. Would you say?
Yeah, and it was like an immediate relief. But then, you know, like I left the yoga class and I went back into my normal spin, as you do, because that was my programming for that time of my life. But I continued to practice with this guy. I was like 2 months in Rishikesh, and so I started to create a habit. Yeah, and then I flew off. But I've been in India since, yeah, since 1990, you know, early 90s, and I returned every year until it's the past 3 years I've been here in Sweden and not going to
Right.
India. You know, it's a lot of years. So yeah.
So that trip, that really kicked. I mean, I mean, were you traveling to India before then, or was that the year you went and then you found yoga?
Yeah, that was the first year,
Right.
and I stayed in India, and yeah, so mhm.
So you went back and to deepen your connection with the country, or deepen your
uh,
connection with yourself, or going to Rishikesh, or
to be really honest, to deepen my connection with all the party crew for the first years. So, so,
I
but the
mean,
yoga
yeah, I
was
agree.
like a side track for many years. So, but I was working in Tokyo and went to Kopangan and we went to India. But you know, the yoga started to be my side companion, and it took over more and more of my life. And at the end, I just felt I was really so lucky that I found this at an early age, you know, because
Mm,
it
mm,
really picked me on a so different path than I would have gone on if I didn't find this practice. So I find a meaning making, and I also found a sense of connection together with the people I was practicing with. And it was like a healthy connection. It was not
mm.
anything with drugs or a party or anything.
Did you feel like that did you feel like that the party lifestyle, that kind of hedonistic lifestyle, and it's not to say, I mean, I want to just caveat that we can still have a hedonistic lifestyle. It's just we don't have to do all that stuff anymore, right? We can still go and have fun, but there is that kind of like getting really wrecked and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
did you find that fell away, or was there a point when you just went like enough, like yoga, because there's a shift, right, going from one
Yeah.
into the other? Was it just like a gradual movement, or was it something more like, no, this is really taking me now?
It was gradual, but it was like I never took that many drugs. I kind of went in and out of that, but I just felt that I was in it for the dance. So I just gradually felt like, okay, the dance is for me the most important part in this when I'm going to these kind of environments. And I also felt that as it does, a yoga practice is showing you, is fine-tuning your senses, like how do you feel inside and what's good for you and what's not good for you. So I just felt that taking drugs was not for me, and that was really early that fell away, thanks God. So yeah, gradually, but after a while I just felt like, no, that's it, this is not for me. Yeah.
And what was that shift? Was it because you started to work more in India with, I know that in 2005, if you want, I'd like to talk a little bit, get to talk a little bit about that, how your work started to work in Mumbai with, with a certain demographic in the slums. And so how did you get to that point? If you want to talk about the Kaivalya project.
Yeah. Okay. So kind of the party scene, it fell off like really much earlier, but that was maybe 99, 98 or something like that. But then I continued to travel to India, and, living in India, you start to feel like you got to do something. You're living in the poorest country, some of the poorest countries in the world. And I was encountering a lot of like real misery, because I spent a lot of time in Bombay. And it was also a chance. Again, I was sitting in a cafe in Mumbai, and I was talking to this lady, and she said, so you're practicing yoga and you're a dance teacher. I was like, yeah. And you're working with mental health. And already I started, because I felt the therapeutic potential inside myself. So I started to study in India, like, how can you use this therapeutically for different diseases and also mental health issues. So she said, okay, I'm working for an NGO, and we're working with sexually abused kids here in India, and would you like to join us? And I was like, of course. And that's, again, by chance, over a coffee in a cafe in Mumbai. So that's how I kind of started to get into more NGO work inside the city.
Cool. And so what was the navigation into? What was the movement? Can you tell me a little bit about how then you moved into and the people you met there?
So since I was already in Mumbai, like practicing yoga and also learning a bit more about this, I started to contact some Indian dance therapists and also yoga therapists. So we started to collaborate with this NGO called Apnalaya, and they have this one of the largest NGOs for working inside the slum areas in Mumbai. So it's called Govandi, which is it's around the Deonar dumping ground. So where you see, if you've seen some Slumdog Millionaire, they did some filming over this huge garbage dump. And we started to develop, first of all, like therapeutic programs for the women in the area. There is a high prevalence of sexual abuse, but also, for the kids. So it's like high levels of trauma growing up there, because first of all, you don't have food for the day. You struggle for your survival. You don't get enough education. And, the expected life age there is 38 years, which is,
wow.
It's like you can't even believe how these kids are growing up. So we got the chance to actually develop this pretty big project where we educated the staff in this NGO, and the staff is trained and they're coming from the slum, so it's like an opportunity for them to work. So we trained kids to become dance and yoga teachers, and we trained the staff, and we developed some theater programs and rehabilitative programs for trauma and sexual abuse and so on. So it's been a really amazing journey, and I'm still involved. Like, I'm still sending donations, and yeah.
How did you find the people in the slums connect with you?
So it's been so brilliant. It's like I've been so welcomed. is one of the most beautiful connections I have with people. You know, you go there and they have nothing, but they offer you everything they have. Like you're invited for food and showing a lot of gratitude. And, you know, the kids are the most, they're so creative. It's like something growing up in these kind of environments that your brain gets tuned for creativity, I think, because you have to be so creative to survive in a way.
Sure.
So yeah, it's like really, really amazing. And they were small kids when we started, and now they are, you know, big men with beards and mustache and everything, running their own dance projects. So it's really cool to see.
This is amazing. So you,
Yeah.
you facilitated, you started the facilitation of that in 2005.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Together
amazing.
with my colleagues, together with
Yeah,
my
for
colleagues.
sure. Of
Yeah, who are
course.
Indian and they work with it all the time. So I have like this small part. They are the ones who are
Of course,
kind of
of
bringing
course.
it.
I mean, they're there,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah.
lovely to be. So what I love about this is this beautiful evolution of going in there, doing the work,
Mm-hmm.
and then seeing the kids and seeing the young people respond,
Mm-hmm.
and then you then training them to do the thing that you do
Mm,
back in the places. And so, you know, this is
yeah,
it's lovely cyclical, beautiful symmetry
yeah.
of giving
It's
back.
it's really, really beautiful, and it's just you know, also. And I've been reflecting about this a lot because I've been kind of then by chance getting into this environment working with kids who's been exposed to, I mean, they have been exposed to much worse than what I was as a child, but it's been a it's been a discovery into myself as well, and my own kind of rehabilitation with these practices that's been mind body based, you know. Normal therapeutic interventions like CBT and talk therapy never really worked for me.
Mm.
So I've been seeing the power of these practices with really, really, really traumatized kids in different centers in Mumbai as well, who's been, you know, lethargic. They haven't been able to move. They've been sitting rocking in a corner. And soon as you start to work with rhythms and the body and synchronizing the group, something really magical happens, you know. And this is wordless. We don't talk. I don't know many of them. They speak Marathi, and I don't know that language. I speak a little bit of Hindi, like baby Hindi, you know. But it's like what we do together in the group, synchronizing and moving and sharing these practices. Also yoga, you know, sharing breathing and relaxation. That is the platform for this, you know, kind of deeper healing to happen, I would say.
And it's just connection through intention and love
Mm-hmm.
and this kind of and care, I suppose. You know, that's really beautiful. The fact that you don't need language. You
Yeah.
didn't need language to be able to touch and know that there's a safe way for these
Mm-hmm.
young kids to feel like they can engage.
Yeah, and it's like to watch so many of them also be empowered and, you know, be inspired to actually see that there are possibilities in life and that this um, you can come out of really difficult situations. So, and that's the inspiration they are self bringing back into the community, because now they are starting dance centers in Mumbai. And
Yeah,
yeah,
beautiful.
we've been supported by Sachin Teldunker. It's his organization, and I mean that's it's like meeting him. And, you know, it's been a real
So
almost
wise.
like a movie to follow this project. Really, yeah.
And so was this the start of your did this start something in you to go, this is the real work I want to work in? This is how I
Mhm.
want to move.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, that's definitely has been the platform for me, like finding my life's mission, I would say. Um, to observe this and to witness this kind of transformations sometimes in a really short period of time. And again, it's like it's not magic. Um, it's not like I'm really cautious of using the word healing. Basically, it's more like to bring an empowerment into someone who feels they have maybe lost hope sometimes. Then I'm
Mm,
talking about the rescue centers for real sexually abused kids, to see
mm,
them kind of coming back, standing with both feet on the ground, you know, watching
mm,
their body language changing, and there's a different spark in the eyes. So since then it's been my my work.
Although I love the thing, I think, it's something I know, it's just on my level that you can see it in people's eyes when something shifts, right?
Yeah. And you
I think,
can, it's really, as you say, it's you can sense it and you can see it.
yeah. And I think that's something really rich about how
Mm.
powerful this connection can be with I love it. Again, I'm loving this thing that the fact that you didn't have to have language. It was just this
Mm.
movement. It was just this
Mm.
intention. It was just sound. It was just like
Mm.
let go, almost like let go. You can let go now.
Yeah,
I
we're
mean, you can be
holding,
yourself.
yeah. And I find, this is also in a yoga practice room, like we are moving together, breathing together. And I think you and all of us who are practicing also, we can sense that even though we don't know each other, it feels like we've known each other for the entire life
Yeah.
in a way, because it creates a sense of, so at the essence of this yoga practice, for me, it's like a sense of connection and belonging. Part to ourselves, a deeper connection to ourselves, but it creates this human connection on a different level.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, so where did you go next after that? Where did you go? What was your lead on? Where'd you go? I found it. I found my Dharma, before anything,
Yeah,
for want of a better expression. Where
yeah.
did that take you?
Yeah, so after being so many years in India, I started to feel that, okay, I will go back to my roots, to Sweden, a country that I've been escaping for so many years. It was so connected with anxiety and, all that happened in my background. But I decided to come back home, and I started also to feel that, okay, these practices are really needed here in Sweden, because we have a lot of social isolation. We have high mental health issues, high prevalence. And also we have, there's a big need for moving over here. We're kind of stiff here in Sweden. So I felt, what can be better than a mixture of Bollywood and yoga in this country? So, but yeah, I returned after many years, and I met a guy in India, my boyfriend, and he lives in an area here in Sweden, which is situated right in between the largest maximum security prisons in Sweden. Again, by chance, I ended up here, and it just took a month, I think, and I called the women's prison over here, and because I really felt, I could connect to the stories that I hear from incarcerated women, that they're coming from some trauma in the background, mental health issues, self-medicating with alcohol and drugs, coming into, gangs or a new kind of connection with people, and that could be kind of the wrong environment, but you can end up in criminality. And I felt, I was so fortunate to be picked up at the right point, and also had loving parents that actually supported me. And many of these women and men that I work with, they don't have that. So again, by chance, when I called this women prison, the woman in charge who picked up the phone, she said, "This is really bizarre, because we are looking for a dance teacher and someone who knows how to teach yoga." And I was like, no way. So she said, "Okay, you got to come here and try." And yeah, I did. So
And then, so when you first walked into that prison, and women's prison, right? And what did you find?
oh my God, I was like on the phone, I felt it was, oh, this is such a good idea. This is great. I feel so free when I'm practicing yoga, da-di-da-di-da, So then I came through the prison gate, and I felt my upper lip went up to here. My mouth was so dry. I started to feel like my heart was really beating, and I came in, and when I was starting this yoga program, it was compulsory. So I had 25 really tough women like looking at me like, who are you and what is yoga, and forget about it, basically. So it was not really a positive experience, like for the first 30 minutes. But then I remember I was managing to get my iPod inside through security. They cleared it for me, and I had Bollywood music on this one. So I said, right, women, do you like dancing? And they said, yeah, we love dancing. Okay, would you mind dancing some Bollywood? And then maybe we could try some breathing afterwards. So then they were on the train. So we actually danced. And ever since has been yoga and Bollywood in a combination with these women. And I still work there weekly. And it's been
Amazing.
many, many years. Yeah.
What year was that when you first went there then?
2008 when I started
Wow.
inside. Yeah. So
And was that like one of my questions was going to be, did you find it you needed to, when you were going in there and your lip went up like that and you were losing and your mouth was dry. What do you,
yeah.
what do you think that was? And do you think that you need to have what do you think you need to find to be able to teach in that environment?
Well, for me, it's been, it's like in the prison yoga project, we always talk about the concept of keeping it real. And for me to enter these environments, if I didn't have the kind of background that I have and the life that I've been living, I wouldn't really be able to reach these women at the level that I'm doing, I think. Because I know what is anxiety on a very, very deep level. I'm still struggling with anxiety. It's just like, I know how to manage it right now. It's like my life, I believe when you're coming from trauma, you learn how to handle life in a different way because you have a different setup in your nervous system. And in a way, when I'm inside the prisons, it's like a lot of nervous systems that are meeting. And the women that I see and the men that I facilitate classes for weekly, they are, I would say, like exteroceptive experts, because you become an expert on your environment for survival. So they are really, really fine-tuned into who you are and what message you are bringing and how you're kind of delivering this. So it's like, you got to keep it very real and very, for their environment, what can we bring in for them? So that's how I kind of reached these women on a different level.
So I quite like this. You were like, after 30 minutes, damn, this isn't working.
Yeah.
Right, let's dance.
I couldn't sit there and
Let's
pretend like, okay, let's
dance.
do it. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Was
So
Bollywood a part of what you were doing before then, or did it really become did it really feel important after that?
yeah, I did already start on the outside to share these practices with Bollywood style dancing, but it's just like, and when I said it to these women, I felt like, oh no way, these guys are too tough, they would think this is super silly, but I didn't have any other music with me, so it's like, this is the only thing I offer. So, but you know what happened, which is really interesting, because this inside a prison, there's like a hierarchy, and it's you're keeping a really tough mask on the surface to hide your personality. It can be really vulnerable to show yourself inside these environments. And there's also like a ranking order. Someone is on the bottom and someone is the top chief, you would say. But what happened with the dancing was that, these really tough women who was like coming in like this, what is this shit, they like, all of a sudden they were dancing and doing these light ball movements, and the girls who were a little bit behind, they could also, occupy space with their bodies, and we had fun together. And it's like, it's kind of equalizing this kind of power dynamics that you find inside a prison. So
And that was amazing. So yeah, of course there's hierarchies but then everyone just wants to dance, right? To let go.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like when you're in the club, you don't know anyone. It can be anyone, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Everyone's just like buzzing off the music. And I really loved that. When you walked out after that class, how did you feel?
And then I was kind of flying. Because it was like, first of all, it felt like a bizarre movie to watch this.
Yeah.
And it still is, every week I feel like, oh my God, if someone could actually see this, because it's such an energy and it's just so many brilliant dancers. And it's just like, it's just like you said, like on a club dance floor when everyone is just going for it 100%, because it's like the 1 hour a week you can really discharge and get this out of your body. So it's has a huge therapeutic potential basically.
So did you walk out of that and then think, right, I've found another path
Yeah,
within the
I
prison?
felt that, okay, for me, it's going to be impossible to return and not combine this. And
Yeah.
it's been,
But
yeah.
yeah, but I mean, working in this environment in prisons and in with incarcerated people like who are locked up, was that something that you were like, this is really important for me now?
Yeah, yeah. And, like now also learning about more and more about so when you're coming from, it's like 99% of the women and men that I meet on the inside who comes from adverse childhood experiences, like complex trauma backgrounds and developmental trauma, when you're growing up and you don't have love and nurture that you should get from your family, and also, have a domestic violence and abuse in the family. So when I listen to the stories from these men and women, that's where the majority is coming from. And so it's like a social justice work that we're doing inside the prison yoga project in a way, because that complex trauma that you've been exposed to from the beginning can sometimes, or most of the times, actually be one of the root causes to going into criminality, basically, because you develop like impulsivity, you develop a nervous system that's geared for survival, which is a cool, very good thing, but it can get you into trouble. So knowing about that and the mental health issues that comes with growing up like that, it's just no wonder that for me, it's like a surprise that they're still standing and that they are so hopeful and creative, many of them still, So it feels like a super important work to do, where you can provide it's like a side rehabilitation towards other treatment modalities that you find inside the prison. But this really creates a platform for other treatments to actually work. So it feels super important. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got in 2015 that you were working at, was it Krim Yoga, was something that you set up with in Sweden in working in prisons? Is that something that was like, because you went into the prison system in 2008 when you worked at the maximum, and then you just carried on working, and then you developed, was it an organization or?
This was 2008 when I started in the women prison. I got in contact with a woman who was the developer of the Swedish prison yoga project. So there was already like a project going in the prison system. And she asked me, would you like to help me to develop this project and train the guards to become yoga teachers? I was like, oh my God, okay, yeah, this is a challenge. So we, together with Eva Seilitz and some other colleagues, we started to develop this. It's a national project. It's the only one in the world that's government funded. So we trained the prison guards, because over here we cannot bring yoga teachers from the outside inside the prisons due to security.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, and so we co-created this project from 2008 until 2016, and we did many trainings. I think we trained much over 1,000 guards, I think, to become yoga teachers. Yeah. And it's really working. It's really fascinating to see how the yoga practice is kind of over bridging the us and them mentality inside the prisons. And and then we did the largest randomized research study in the world on our program over here. And we had some really amazing, significant results on the root cause of criminality.
What were some results on that?
We saw improved impulsivity, or reaction time. So they did computerized tests before the research study and after. So we saw some real significant results on that. Reduction in anxiety, improved self-control. That was the impulse control, but we also saw they felt like a higher sense of belonging, which is really interesting.
Wow.
Without incorporating, this is no yoga philosophy involved. It's only moving and breathing, like asana practice and meditation. And also a reduction of OCD symptoms. Like it's a huge study.
Sounds amazing. I mean, that's incredible. Like to teach over 1,000 guards, like, and there's something really rich you said about like it comes back to this idea of hierarchies, right? Because you have the guards in the prison and you have the prisoners, and suddenly the guards are teaching yoga to the prisoners, which is about connectedness and about, you know, how can you talk a little bit about how that played out in relationship to the relationship between, you know, because like you think guards are like they're on the outside, we're in here. How did that work out?
So first of all, it's not like the ideal thing because the guards already have the power. So yeah, it was a bit like, I was a bit like, okay, would this really be a good idea? But we don't have any other options. But what happened is that since the guards also had to start to practice yoga on their own, it also created like a humbleness from them to, okay, now they are in a new situation. They also didn't have the guard clothes, they had yoga clothes on, and it was good for the men and the women in the classes to see that this person was also a little bit nervous delivering this practice. So they started kind to encourage the guards that no, you're doing fine, you know, like we're here, we're gonna practice with you. So it became a more like a supportive kind of feeling inside the groups. And and it's amazing what it can do, you know. So
that is amazing, because that the other thing is like barriers start to fall down. Guards have to look at the prisoners in a different way. Prisoners have to look at the guards in a different way, and there comes this more sense of different connection. I mean, that's incredible. That's incredible. So, what point did you get involved with the prison yoga projects with James Fox?
So this was around 2015 when we started to see the results from our research study. We felt like, okay, we need to create some really good training materials. We need to kind of bring the level of our trainings and everything that we do up into like, we wanted to make it better quality basically. And we started to see also more and more the research that came out from traumatic stress and the body's involvement in this. So, and since we saw these results, we also saw that the results were actually improvements in PTSD symptoms and underlying trauma from childhood. So we were like, okay, we need to really research trauma-informed yoga. What will we do? And then James Fox's name came up. I was Googling, you know, like best prison yoga. Who is it? And it's like Google James Fox. It came up all the time. So we contacted him, and my colleague Eva went to San Quentin to see him first, and I took his training in 2014 or 15. And then I also went to San Quentin the same year to co-facilitate some classes with him inside there with the men, life sentence men there. And we developed a really strong connection, me and James. We're really, really good friends today, and also very close colleagues. I think, so it's the past 5 years.
And how do you think now, because that seems to be for me the core of your work, is working and developing and opening up all those different ways of trying to get this connected more into prisons and to get is that right? Do you feel like this is where you're at?
I work with many different institutions right now here in Sweden, but it's mainly the same kind of clientele. So, but I also work, it's mainly the prisons and the forensic psychiatry and juvenile justice system, who is my kind of main focus right now. Yeah, it's been also again a life's mission, because I see the effects every week in front of me, and it's like I feel really on fire to get these methods really recognized as a therapeutic intervention internationally inside the prisons, because there is basically no other treatment programs that show these results in such a fast time, you know. So yeah.
I mean, it seems like, you know, just looking at watching you, it seems like it's like brimming from you, right?
Yeah. It's been like it's not easy to work
No.
inside the system. So it's been like, you know, the fire sometimes is because you become so angry with these kind of bureaucrats that's you're facing. So that's a good fire to, all right, let's go to Harvard University, then I'm gonna show you. So
But this is what I love about you, Josefin, because you put yourself right in the flame. You've always have.
yeah,
And I
for
think
good and
that's,
worse.
yeah, but there's something, but the reason you do it is for the good, for the betterment of humanity.
Yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah.
think that I see in you, and I see in you something. I haven't met many people who give and who are so passionate about in something as much as you are with this work.
Yeah, yeah, I think yeah, I see this in all my colleagues basically who are working inside. I see this in everybody who works with people. Actually, I see it in Scott as well, and I see like people, for all of us who are working with this and see personal transformations and see this developing on a deeper level. I think you can't give up, because it's like becomes a life mission, but it also becomes like a responsibility. You know, I really feel a deep responsibility that this cannot just slip away and be forgotten in a corner that normally happens inside these systems, because it's a lot of focus towards security and medication, and you know, it's like just managing the symptoms. It's like you're treating the tip of the iceberg, but you never really go deep inside the treatment programs. So it's like, yeah, I feel
So I mean, why I say that, because here's a thing: you ended up delivering a presentation on prison yoga in the UK Parliament to the House of Lords.
yes. So
I
some
mean,
people think I'm
it
lying, you
doesn't
know.
get I mean, I'll connect to it so you can see, but it doesn't get much better than that. Or being
Yeah.
able to, you know, looking at bureaucrats and people getting in the way and being able to affect something at such a level. I mean, how did that end up because I love this arc about you
Mm.
being in India in 2005 in the slums, teaching, you know, these youngsters to dance, to then 13 years later, being in the upper echelons of the UK establishment saying, listen to me.
Yeah.
How did you get there? How did you end up in the Parliament?
So again, it's been again, like it's been a crazy journey up until the British Parliament. To take it from the James Fox connection, because that's what leads to the British Parliament. Yeah, we started to connect with some good experts in the world to create the Swedish prison yoga project. So we connected with James Fox, but then he put me on the track, like, you should connect with Satbir Khalsa and Sarah Lazar at Harvard University. So I thought, okay, these guys, they are alive. So I wrote to them and I asked them if I could come to Harvard to visit. So, and Sarah Lazar said, yeah, please come and visit. So I was in her brain lab watching brain scans and everything. What is the best practices for prisoners? Like, how can we work with rehabilitation for the neurobiology in our programs and everything? And also then Satbir Khalsa helped us a lot. And they knew Heather Mason in London. And I asked around, like, if I would like to take a really good yoga therapy training, where should I go? And they pointed me to Heather and the Minded Institute in London. And then starting the training with Heather in London, she's been so super supportive. And she has this group in Parliament, basically, called Yoga in Healthcare Alliance, that she developed together with many therapists and people in Parliament in the UK. So she's the reason I ended up in the British Parliament to actually speak about the therapeutic potential from these practices inside prison environments. And, talk about the upper lip was up here when I didn't really know what is the House of Lords. I felt like maybe it's like a, normal government building as here in Sweden. And then we came to the House of Lords and I looked up at the building. I was like, oh, okay.
We've landed.
It's inside there. So yeah, that was amazing, and has been leading to a lot of good connections inside the UK, basically.
I was going to say, what was the outcome of that? What's been the outcome, and is it still going on?
It's still going on. We've been so we're kind of developing our project here in Europe under the Prison Yoga Project flag, which I'm now working for. So I'm working as the European director of programs for that project right now. Mm-hmm. And it took us into, more like the establishments in the UK where the change actually happens, like the head psychiatrist inside the professor of psychiatry inside the prison system, the forensic psychiatry, and also via our research study, we've been asked for giving advice for the UK, also for implementing programs. And now we just received a grant for publishing our prison yoga, therapeutic yoga books.
Amazing.
Yeah, so that's via the Give Back Yoga Foundation, but also from the British government and the National Lottery Foundation, I think it's called. So yeah. Which is super cool.
This is amazing. And so you say you got a book?
Yeah, we just finished. Me and James, we've been writing a book for women called Freedom from the Inside. And we've been writing it together with the women inside the yoga program where I teach every week. And also from our international programs with drawings and quotes. Amazing. And yeah.
When will that be? When will that be published?
Just in January, I think it will be published in the US, but over here I believe in the next month, I will publish it here in Sweden.
Amazing.
So yeah.
We'll give us a link for that. We'll link to that in the show notes for when it comes up.
Yeah, thank you.
I think this is I think it's amazing, just to hear the story. I've always wanted to hear your story about how you got to, how I get to be this incredible.
It's a long one.
Really, like literally, there's yoga teachers and I say to a few people about this, there's the yoga teachers and there's Josefin.
No, but I feel sometimes, yoga is like the method it's sometimes the excuse for me to kind of connect. And I feel it's like especially inside these projects, it's a practice of connection. And it's a practice of being, the word samastitihi comes up like all the time, like stand with your both feet on the ground, being neutral, being able to. So it's like, it's the yoga here is like a tool for, so we are finding a safe and non-judging kind of connection. Yeah. So it's more about that on many levels than sharing asanas or doing.
Yeah, sure. And do you think, with all your training, do you think this is like, with what you know now, when you see it working and helping in such impactful ways, do you think this is something that most yoga teachers should have? Do you think it's something that the ability to understand this idea of trauma, or the other idea of the way that people are in their lives, rather than just ticking off a thing? Is it something that we all need to be able to have an idea and understanding of?
Yeah, and I think that's super important, because and also to have the understanding that the reactions from trauma and mental health is so super individual that and this is really fascinating. You can never become like an expert in trauma, you would say, because there's so many different expressions of trauma in the world. But for us to be humble and being aware of the the deeper layer of, you could say, almost like hidden injuries that many of the participants are holding when they're coming into a yoga class. And for us to be able to hold space in a safe and nurturing way, and not being in the way of their kind of developing and their way of expressing what comes out from the practice. Because sometimes I feel it's almost like we're in a molded kind of framework that it should be done like this and it should be felt like this, or but we never know, what's going on the inside. So I think it's our responsibility to know how to, first of all, step out of our own way and to be really open and present for what might arise, but also to have the knowledge of how to handle if someone gets a panic attack or a really strong emotional release, or a trauma flashback can happen as well. So I think it's really important to be aware of the different layers of trauma that might be in a person and a participant. In our case, it's like a given that you have this in front of you where we work inside the prisons. So
yeah, I can imagine.
Mm.
Do you think it's more like looking at the arc of like when you started, and then when you first met that man and he said, you do yoga? And you see where you are now and the impact of the work that you've done. How does that correlate? If you looked at yourself, you took a deep reflection, you looked at yourself now and you looked at the person you were then, what do you see?
Wow, and this is the thing that keeps me super humble in front of, first of all, the massive impact trauma has on you in your body, and that I still can feel on some levels the same distress as I felt when I was really young. But I see myself as a person who can handle this in such a different way. And, for my own personal perspective, to be able to find my ground again really quickly. So now I've trained myself to center myself and kind of regulate myself. But I just feel that, wow, if I knew this from when I was a child, what if I got this simple tools already when I was 11, and it's just thinking about all the kids in the world basically as well. But yeah, it's been a real journey inside the most darkest aspects of myself and my own psyche, and being able to have the courage to actually observe that and feel it. I didn't have that courage for many years. So that's the difference today, that I can actually feel it, observe it, and not run away from it as I've been doing for many years. So.
And do you feel that's why you do what you do, because you want to give courage to others, or get others to find their courage as well?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's like I just feel that I need to do this because maybe that individual that I meet maybe will not have that desire of kind of going that deep inside of themselves, but at least I can somehow provide some simple tools for getting your feet back on the ground, or being a better person inside a relationship, like regulating your aggressions or something like that. I'm trying to keep it really basic and simple. I'm doing a much deeper practice with myself because I feel I need to do that, but it's not for everybody maybe, or yeah.
And I think there's something interesting about you've made that choice to think this needs to be deep, right?
Yeah.
And it's having the, what's really beautiful about you is you can see, I mean, you're one of the most positive, smiliest people I've ever met. When people see this, they'll see
and
that.
that's not always.
but I know. But literally, when you're doing a Bollywood dance or being a class with you, is just a joy.
Yeah.
And that's testament to the work you've done on yourself, right?
Yeah, and yeah, because many years that side was like the only side that I shared, you know, like kind of, I also used it as a mask when I was younger, like being very positive and energetic and all of that. So I feel that practicing mindfulness and practicing self-observation and acceptance and all of that has brought it into, okay, so there's so many different sides of us, like as human beings, that needs to be acknowledged and looked inside, and you know, to basically also manage an everyday life and also the work with other people. I think all of us working with other people, we need to be aware of our own kind of reactions and what we are imposing on people we are meeting. Yeah.
So, you know, if I'll caveat it again, but if you look at that that young woman who, before she went to India, who was lost, and then you look at and you reflect on that woman now, what do you see? What do you see now? How do you see the evolution?
I see a woman that has found a purpose. I didn't have a purpose at that time. I still can feel lost at times, but I do feel that I have a sense of belonging and a sense of wholeness that I didn't have. And I also find it's just I can't explain with words how happy I am to be able to make a living of what I'm actually doing today. And I couldn't dream about that when I was 18 years old. I felt that I was lucky to be alive maybe one more year. You know, I had no idea where my life was going. So yeah, I feel very hopeful and I feel very grateful, and I also feel very, very humble in front of what I'm carrying with me as well. So yeah.
This is beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Josefin. So, well, last question I always leave. What do you feel it means to live a contemplative life?
I feel it's everything. I feel it gives life different colors. I feel it gives us a totally different dimension of how we relate to others, and I find it crucial for these times that we're going through right now, that we need to kind of encourage these kind of practices, and also to find really simple ways of sharing them and keeping it real, basically. Yeah.
Keeping it real.
I hope that was an answer.
It's your answer. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time, Josefin. It's been
Yeah,
beautiful.
thank you, Scott. Thank you so much.
All right.
Really, really. Cool.